So today we're going to talk about ellipses. An ellipse is a circle in perspective. So here we see a circle and we fit it into the front face of a cube. It's a great way to talk about ellipses because we can use the planes of the cube to demonstrate how the circle is foreshortened and some of the laws or rules of ellipses. So let's take a look at what would happen if we put a circle into the top and bottom planes of this box and then made them fit in there correctly. So I'm going to take a look at another circle. Let's just raise this circle up. And we'll zoom out a little bit. So we need to make this circle fit into this plane here. To do that, we have to shorten it quite a bit. So we're going to be foreshortening it. Let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to squash that circle right down to that top line. And notice that I also have to make it a little smaller because it's going back in space. So I want to move those two sides in. So now I have this flattened circle, and it's basically foreshortened, fit into that top plane of the cube. Let's do the same with the bottom. I have the same circle, and we're going to move it down. Whoops, wrong layer. Too far there. Actually, where we really want it is right inside of here. So again, we need to flatten this quite a bit. So let's use the transform tool here and flatten that circle so it fits inside of that plane. And then we also have to make it fit the width as well. So it's a little smaller width-wise than the main circle here. So what you see now is the top and bottom planes now have foreshortened circles in them. I'm going to turn off that front circle. So you can see that the circles, the foreshortened circles or ellipses, are following the same basic rules of perspective. So because the top plane is closer to the eye level line, that means that that will be a thinner or more flattened plane. It'll be more foreshortened than the bottom plane, and you can see that reflected in the ellipses themselves. So what I want to do now is turn off my cube and just look at these. So one of the things that we really want to pay attention to with ellipses is the three rules. So the three rules of ellipses are, first of all, they're always perfectly symmetrical from side to side and from top to bottom. So to demonstrate this, I'm just going to use some guides. First, I'm going to start with the top ellipse and select it so I can see the, doesn't want to select. Well, I'm just going to pull some guides over here and show you that this ellipse is exactly the same from the top to the bottom and from the side to the side, right side to the left side. Same with the bottom ellipse. It's wider, but it follows the same rules. So that's the first rule of ellipses. Let's just write this down here. Ellipses are always symmetrical from side to side top, bottom. The second rule of ellipses is that ellipses are always rounded on the ends. Even this very narrow ellipse doesn't have a lot of height to it. Still, it's rounded. If it comes to a point, it won't look like a circle in perspective. Ellipses are always rounded on the ends. Now, the only time this would not be the case would be if the ellipse was sitting exactly on the eye level line, in which case it would just be a flat line. And if it's very, very close to the eye level, it's very hard to get those perfect round ends. But you definitely, as they get wider, you need to have that rounded end. And the third rule of ellipses is ellipses are always widest in the middle. So where this cross is here, this is the widest point of the ellipse. It's going to start to taper, and as it rounds this curve, it'll really, this is where it speeds up, right? That arc really changes right through here, but it's always widest here. You can see it more clearly here with this arc. In fact, the clearest you can see it is in a circle itself, where it's a continuous arc, never changes. So there's one other piece to this. Ellipses are always widest in the middle, and they taper to the ends. In other words, they don't go in a straight line. They curve, and then as they round that end, depending on how wide they are, how much depth you can see in them, it's going to go quite quickly around that curve, depending again on how much of the top you see. So ellipses follow the same basic perspective rules as cubes, and they also have these three rules, which are very important to remember.